on, everyone? Thank y'all for joining us. I'm Chris Hennessy, and this is Ending the Stigma, where we have conversations with people that have been any kind of involved with justice and involvement. That did not come out right. Anything that has anything to do with being to prison or being in addiction, that justice involvement has touched their life in some way or another. Just real quick, let's say hi to some people in the comments. We got Amber Williams here. I got to move my mic where I can see the comments. Amber. Jackie Hallberg is here somewhere. There she is. Tom Cruise is here. Not that Tom Cruise, a different one. Aaron Mangum is here. Kelly Steinica. Julie Griffin on YouTube. My one person that watches on YouTube. Andrew Bennett. That's Holly's line, Andrew. She's the only one that says that. Paul Deitch. Nope, Amber, I did not cut my beard. I got it trimmed like 3 or 4 weeks ago, but that's it. Hey, Lisa. GW, Jeff Warner in the house. What's good, man? Thank y'all so much for joining us. I appreciate it. My guest tonight, this has been like a long time in the making. She doesn't really do live video. Well, hey, Lindsay. How are you doing, ma'am? She doesn't really like to do live video. She likes doing live audio events. I don't like doing live audio events. She's always trying to get me to do audio. I'm always trying to get her to do video. It's just this thing going back and forth. So finally getting her on the show. She's got a cool story. I hadn't heard it all. I've heard a little bit of it, and she's going to share it with us. Y'all help me welcome Melissa Houston.
Hi,
Melissa.
guys. Oh my gosh, I had to sit still in the backstage area and I almost hurt myself. I'm excited, but to be fair, I had you on my show months ago. Last year.
Months ago.
So I win.
It was.
In the arm wrestling championship, I won. You came in first. But
and Amber Williams got you on before I did.
Well, that's because we rescheduled. She asked, how did we do it? How did I get you before Chris? And I said, well, he rescheduled so he could go hunting or hang out with friends or something.
It was the day before 4th of July or something. I don't remember.
You felt
or
like
maybe it was 4th of July. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway, I went to go.
Amber went. That's
somewhere. I went somewhere. I don't remember what it was.
No, you had somebody coming in from out of town. It was like a really unique opportunity to capture or something. And I was like, yeah, go be with your friend.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you were very gracious. And I got back around to rescheduling. Yep, I see Jackie.
I gotta say hi, guys. I'm gonna look over here, but it's Randy. So hi, Randy. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Amber.
Yeah.
Gosh. I know somebody said what's the stigma today? And I'll be honest with you guys. I'm gonna tell you about the criminal aspect of the people I'm related to. And it affected me in some ways. But, the reality is I've done background checks for a decade. If you guys don't know, that's something that I slid into very comfortably because I understood the terminology because I grew up.
Right.
That prerequisite was not on the job description, but it's one of those things where 1 in 3 Americans has a criminal record. That means somebody got caught, went through the system, pled guilty, it's stuck.
Right.
That
doesn't mean 1 in 3 have committed crimes. There's way more people that have committed crimes that didn't get caught.
I mean, let's be honest. I was joking with my uncle. I told him I was coming on live and I wanted to see out of respect where he wanted me to go with it, where he didn't, right? Because I respect him. He's recovered. He's out. He's been out a long time, but he spent 17 years in prison. I had another uncle who spent comparable time still in. I had a sister who spent 3 years in prison. My mom was on probation on and off a good part of my whole life. And it just kind of was around. But people pretending it doesn't exist is nonsense because we all love somebody who loves somebody. Even if it's not directly your mom's brother, right? It might not be your brother, but your mom's brother or your dad's brother, somebody. And so I just wanted to talk about it. And we've talked a lot about getting out, going back to work and what it takes to get there. But do we ever talk about the relationships that happen while they're inside? Right. Mm-hmm. And what happens in 17 years? Sam, 17 years is a long time. I vividly remember the first time ever my grandma didn't yell at somebody who was being ornery. I was a toddler sitting on a table delivering a box for the holidays, Thanksgiving, packing up this cardboard box we used to be able to take into the prison for my uncle. And my uncle did something with my nails, like Gucci, Gucci, goo, and got yelled at by the guard. And I didn't understand the dynamics. I'm a toddler, really in diapers. And I can remember looking at this guy going, why did he yell at my uncle? And then I looked at my grandma like, why didn't you yell at him for yelling at him? That's your baby, right? Because I understood that dynamic. And when you think about that, and then here I am a decade into helping people screen for employment purposes and understanding the risk of recidivism rates and understanding that not everybody's ready to walk out and be a good person, right?
Right.
But there's also a bunch of people who love them at home. And I have been on a phone call when grandma got that one from her son, and she's like, yeah, hold on. And then it's, hey, this is so-and-so. We love you. Merry Christmas. Hey, this is, and you literally go like this for 2 seconds at a time because you have 10 minutes to talk.
Mm-hmm.
How do you send somebody home to people they had 10-minute conversations with here and there?
Right.
For decades.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird, right? Coming home. Yeah.
And then they're like, but that's your uncle. That's your cousin. Yeah, but I don't know them. How many of you, and guys, maybe you don't have a person who's in prison in your family, but how many of you have that distant family member who's maybe not so close when they show up at the holiday and they hug you and you're like, thanks, Bob. Right? Thanks, Uncle Bob. Yeah. But imagine a decade or more in prison, and then this person shows up, and you're supposed to be the one to support them, open up your spare bedroom, help them get back to work, and do all of this. And you don't know Uncle Bob. And you know Uncle Bob had some friends that got him in trouble. And how does that make you feel? Me and our family, it was like Tuesday, right? Big celebration, big kids had balloons to play with. It was a party. But how many people are that close at home? And so then you look at recidivism rates. Who do you have on the outside? Who's going to help support you? You don't have work experience. You have a record people are excluding you for. And you're not supposed to get in trouble, but you have all of these fines that are like huge.
Mm-hmm.
And do we talk about these things? Right? And forever I couldn't. I was just an employer who's a background screener who's like, hey, employers, yeah, this is the parameters maybe you should look at for your industry. But let's talk about really from the moment you come home to family, right? That's the part that I wanted to address.
Yeah.
How do you make it better if they're strangers when you come in? Will you support a stranger? Would you financially support Uncle Bob tomorrow if he was released? We should probably catch up with that comment. I just saw it. Whew.
Yeah, somebody spamming the comments.
Okay. Well, they're enthusiastic. Okay. Sure. Okay, so wait, Keston's coming in from Trinidad and Tobago. That's kind of cool.
Who is?
Keston. Yeah.
Hey, man.
And then Tom Cruise, the stories I hear from both family members and those in the system here in Texas are heartbreaking all over. Yep. I did a quick Google search just to see like prison numbers because I don't know a ton. I know more about after the fact, once you've had a record, what that looks like. But I found out that there's...
Hang on just a second. We got a legend in the house.
What?
Gabe is here.
Don't let him see me. He'll know I'm...
What's going on, man? Thanks for dropping in.
Almost 2 million people in the U.S. are incarcerated, and that accounts for 25% of the world's population of incarcerated individuals. If we were going to lead on anything, that's probably not the one I want to have the shining star on. Mm-hmm. But if you think about 25% of the world's criminal population being in the U.S., what does that do for us? For like, literally, we have a huge problem. How do we fix it? And Chris, I don't know. Did you learn a lot from the punishment segment, or was it other things while you were inside that helped you become a better human once you were out?
No, it definitely wasn't the punishment segment. It was, I mean, God did a big work in my life whenever I was in there. That was the main thing. But it was the thing that's punishment, and this is what a lot of people don't get. And being locked up is the punishment. Like being treated like shit is not. Having a record is not. Having the stuff that follows you around for the rest of your life is not supposed to be the punishment.
No.
The loss of your freedom for a certain amount of time is. And that's where it should end.
And if you think about it, parents, right? Like the best way to really put it into perspective is if you have a kid, they made a mistake, they didn't take out the trash, and that was their chore. And so you punish them from their phone for 2 days. After that 2 days is over, they're not terrible kids who never take out the trash for the rest of their life, right? And it's the same concept for prison. Once you've done your time, go back and be productive. But also do it with a $10,000 fine, maybe with 16 cents an hour in prison while you were in. So you never got to take a chunk out of that. You also have your probation costs. If you're monitored, you have those costs. If you're on drug testing, you have those costs. Plus you have rent, food, electric, car, insurance, all of these things. And people don't think about starting over. But guys, if your entire life burned down to the ground right now and nobody you knew was able to support you the way they support you today, and you had to start tomorrow, what would it take? Because I had a house fire and I really had to explain to people when they're like, well, what do you need? I need a dustpan. I need the thing you put under your dish drain. And then I need the dish drain. And then I need the dishes and I need the sponge. And you think about it, so do these people. And they have additional hurdles. They're not allowed to search after hours. They're not allowed to be around certain people when they come out. They're not. Guys, I'm job hunting right now. And without any parameters, it's a creative event, right? A chaotic little event with lots of
and imagine not having any kind of like
work experience,
real skills, except maybe just working with your hands, or maybe not even that, because you were young and dumb whenever you got locked up and did something stupid, and
And then people like me, I'll be honest, guys, when my uncle, and this is why I called him, when he got out of prison, he got out in 2019. Spending almost 2 decades in the federal prison system. He had special treatment because of what his body incurred because of the drugs. His hands won't flatten on the table, like they sit like this constantly. He can't change that. He doesn't have any skills, but even if he tried, computers aren't going to work for his issues. He can't stand, he can't sit. He needed all of this special treatment in prison. When he got out, he got denied disability from the same government that told him it was okay to have an extra pillow and bed mattress. And so from 2019 until just February of this year, he needed family support financially to make it. Imagine that, because honestly, that's where it comes back to family. I helped. I was calling and paying the bills. I was taking care of that financially because I could. But how many people have that support when they come out? And 4 years after release, till he was able to get the benefits that he qualified for from the time he was in, really, like he was not able to work. Our system's broken. And I'm somebody who's like, yeah, screen for employment, but it's broken, right? And so we got to have these conversations because too many people deal with it and not enough people talk about it. I'm looking at some of these comments. They're so good tonight.
Yep.
Let's see. Are you keeping up? I can't do this, guys. This is why
I know it's hard. I was just looking at one person's comment in particular, kind of being a little negative, but it's whatever.
Who's being negative? We don't got negativity in the house.
Oh, we do. It's all right, though.
Okay.
Yeah, Crystal said her husband spent the majority of his juvenile life and all but the past 7 years in prison. It was until he moved away that he excelled due to not having the stigma people he grew up with judging him. Yeah. There's a cross Canadian ragweed song. They're a Texas country band. They're not even together anymore, but it's called "You're Always 17 in Your Hometown," and that is exactly right. Especially if you grew up in a small town.
It brings it back to family too, because I'll be honest, guys. I was the oldest grandchild in a sea of family members. My grandma had 8 children. So 7 aunts and uncles, all of them had numerous children in and of. They're all partied together on the weekends. And so I have 20 kids deep in the house, right? Everybody who comes over gets ready at this house while I'm getting ready to watch all these kids. And it's chaos. If you've ever been in a drug-filled home, you understand what's happening. I don't even have to explain. But they're friends. The problem wasn't even the environment, but it was the friends of my aunts and uncles and mom and whomever who would show up. And then they'd look at me, remember the face. And then when I'm at the professional environment at the payday loan company I was working at, check cashing place, I was a manager there. And here comes this person, obviously in their addiction. Hey, little Missy, how are you? And then your boss looks at you like, who? Why do they know you by a nickname so comfortably? It's never Melissa, right? They always go right to what my family would call me. And you can't grow beyond that either. Even if you don't have a record, they look at you, and the people who know you tell a story. I mean, it does, whether we like it or not. And so it's important to let people heal where they are and to give them the ability to move away. Because I also had to leave Arizona just to get away from it, to start gaining some professional ground. I was never not little Missy, so I totally get it.
Yep, for sure. Hey, Rob and Maria just joined us.
Yeah. My goodness. There's so many great comments.
Yeah. Compassionate release and what folks come out to. I know it. That's kind of the thing, is just that makes it so hard on people. Like they don't get a chance.
And
at all.
For drug addicts to come out and have a requirement for a halfway house, you are literally putting them into the egg box with a bunch of other eggs who are struggling to stay sober.
Oh my God. Halfway houses are a cesspool of freaking, they're terrible, man.
And my sister was doing really well inside. She got an early release option. She would get 3 months off her sentence if she spent it in a halfway house instead. And that's where her roommate used, got her in trouble. She was sober, but there was still this ripple. And then she started to lose her positive feelings because she was being pointed at, even though she didn't use. And then that created this domino effect. And we are responsible for our own actions. But I can tell you, nobody who wants to be sober, whether it's alcohol, whether it's your favorite cheesecake, whatever it is, you can't go into that environment and say no forever. It's really
right.
I don't care what the thing is. If you leave me alone in your kitchen with a cheese plate, I don't care if I want to stay away from the cheese or not.
Yeah.
Eat the cheese. So you have to set them up for success. And then it comes back to, how do you keep these family relationships strong enough to have the family want to opt in again? Because Chris, those family relationships not usually so strong when you get sent in, right? We've probably run the gamut of those relationships and run them to the full extent of where they could be run to by the time we hit the wall. Right?
Yep, for sure.
I have to ask, how did you maintain your relationships with the people on the outside while you were in?
Man, I was really blessed. Except for 2 out of the 8+ years I was in prison, I was within like 45 minutes or an hour of my family. So it was very easy for them to come visit. I got to visit 3 weekends a month, 2 weekends a month, like all the time. They wrote letters. My grandma was really the only one I called because my parents came so often, just to kind of keep costs down, because prison phones are expensive. It ended up, they went down after a little while. County jail phones were really expensive. They were more expensive than prison was. Prison ended up being somewhere around $3 a call or something like that for a 15-minute call. But that still adds up if you're calling people. And we had the option to either call collect or buy a phone card. So I always called my grandma collect. But it adds up, Yeah, I was really blessed when I was in there that they were so supportive of me. And they were always close enough to be able to come visit.
I know Sam just asked a question, and I don't know if he's being serious or not, but there are places where you go to recover from eating disorders for real. There are people who are so addicted that it hurts their life in the same way that drugs can.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I have issues with food. That is one of my biggest addictions. Like it is. But that addiction doesn't get me incarcerated. Other people's addictions do get them incarcerated. Right? And the stigma is how do we stop judging other people for just having a different addiction than us? And then how do they get out, right? We have the stigma of convicted individuals not wanting to work or coming out and they repeat offend. But why is that stigma what it is? And really, we could talk forever, but the support services inside, the education opportunities, the training that should be happening, not really nationwide. And you have no work experience inside if you don't land a job. And they're not guaranteed for everybody, right? Statistically speaking, not everybody can work inside.
Say that again. I was reading a comment. I'm sorry.
Can statistically speaking, not every prisoner can be employed from the inside, right? Like there's not enough jobs to go around to every prisoner nationwide.
You talking about once they get out?
No, inside. To learn a skill set while they're in.
Oh yeah, no, there's no way. Like, you know, if you want to take a trade or want to go to college, getting into college is a little bit easier because there's not a wait list for it. But like the trades, all the trade schools, they have a wait, and you may have to be shipped to another unit because it only makes sense. You know, they're going to have all the trade schools at all the units, but you know, like that was one of the reasons I didn't go to a trade school or go to college when they took college off by unit. Because I was so close to home, I didn't want to lose that. And you put in to go to college, and they're going to send you wherever the hell they want to in the state, because you wanted to go. So they're going to send you where there's an opening. I mean, they'll do it, which I got to give them credit for that. But, you know, you have to weigh your options. Do I want to be 45 minutes from my family, or do I want to be 6 hours from my family?
Well, not only that, but what happens when you switch yards as a prisoner?
Oh my God, it freaking sucks.
I mean, because that's the thing, guys, is we're dealing with people who are constantly in a stressful environment, very small situation to live in and to reside in constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a few feet by a few feet. You have somebody constantly controlling your movements, and you don't even get to practice your decision-making skills because it's either fight or don't. And when the fight comes, you don't have a choice and you get in trouble anyway, usually.
Right.
When they get out, then we want to get them employed, but employers don't want to employ the guy who has no experience, has no recent work history, who may or may not be back next month if they don't pay their fines. That's the stigma. And we're putting all of this pressure back on the family, which then we get people telling them that they're supporting the problem. So how do we fix it? How do we remove the stigma from people who have served their time? Keep the family supporting the people beyond the incarceration and fix the recidivism rates. And honestly, I know the answer. It's education and connection. Mm-hmm. There's Stephen Matthew Clark. I'm going to call it out because I saw Paul had a question about how often could you access technology in prison.
Yeah, I just pinned it. I hadn't forgotten. I'm going to answer it, Paul. I have it pinned, so just give me a minute.
This Stephen Matthew Clark, though, is one of 4 people who has unlimited access nationwide in our prison system to be here on LinkedIn. So go check him out. Paul introduced me to him. But
yeah, I opened his profile. Paul tagged him a minute ago, so I opened his profile in another tab. I'm going to connect with him after this is done.
And people should, because he talks about the stigma so much more. He's actually incarcerated currently, coming and doing live events from his cell.
That is so crazy. That is nuts.
So he has unlimited access. 1 in 4, I think, and that's word of mouth. I don't have facts on that. Somebody else confirm it. But I know my uncle said he had to pay 5 cents per minute to access the internet for email only. He paid like 25 cents a minute to talk to people or something to that.
Damn.
Maybe that's 25 cents for, I don't know. I'd have to look. I wrote it down. Let me look at that while you address whatever you're addressing, because that feels right.
So let me answer these questions real quick. Let me go find them. All right. So Paul, I did not have internet access when I was inside. They just got tablets in TDC, in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I know they have email. I don't know what other kind of stuff they have access to. I would imagine it's pretty limited. But just the fact that they have it is a step in the right direction. That's crazy. I'm sure there's programs and stuff on it, like learning stuff. I don't know. Honestly, I'm just speculating now, but I know there's email, which makes it a whole lot easier to communicate rather than, writing a letter. It still costs, I don't remember, 50 cents, I think, per email. So it costs like the price of a stamp.
It's just faster, right?
It's just
He put it was 25 cents for long distance calls, 6 cents per minute locally, and 5 cents per minute for email. And if you don't have experience, which a lot don't, you're emailing like this. And imagine one letter at a time, trying to figure it out, trying to use the mouse, go back. Those minutes add up. And if you get 16 cents per hour in prison, how many emails can you send a week? Because you still have other things, commissary, those kind of things. So then you're relying on family. Again, coming back to that stigma of the family's punished more, I think, than the prisoner financially. And then it's ruining the relationships that will strengthen their release. And it's inhibiting the people that are on the outside actually maintaining the connection to want to help. I think that's a huge way to fix the narrative right away. Like to end the stigma is to create better support systems to come home to by communicating more effectively. That in and of itself could solve how many problems for an addict? Like just communication. This is my trigger. Stop talking to me right now. You make me want to drink. Even if it's not the healthiest thing, it's nice to be able to set a boundary when you're early in your addiction. Yeah. Right? When you're learning these things. Okay. All right,
Rob. So the most common trade that is taught while in prison. I don't know what the most common one is. We had construction, carpentry, and HVAC on the unit I was on. They'd have welding, they have computer programming, they have electrician, and I don't even remember what all they had. I've been out for a while now, but they had some pretty good trade schools, and they had different levels. Like they had Wyndham level, which was Wyndham is the school district in prison, but they also had like college level trades. If I'm remembering right, there was like 2 different levels. The college levels were more advanced, a little more hands-on, while the Wyndham level stuff was really basic. But like I said, there might be a 6-month waiting list or a year waiting list for welding if you wanted to get into welding. But yeah, all kinds of good trades that they can learn while they're inside. Texas does pretty good at that, I think.
And I don't know what the numbers are at all, but personally in our family, the sooner they got back to employment and knowing where they could stay and not having the arguments at home. I know somebody else mentioned, coming home and not having a stable environment. It's really important. If you come home and the person you're coming home to is using, but they're the closest relative who will keep you out of a halfway house, and it's still a better option for a lot because they can't afford the halfway house. We got to fix this. We do. We got to give them the support.
Yep. Thanks, Darren. He said small engine repair, computer repair. They have a lot of programs. I know they do a lot of computer repair because we've lost a lot of business to the computer or to TDCJ because they get computer. So I work for an electronics recycling company. A lot of people just end up donating it to the prison because the guys get to work on the stuff, on the older stuff, learn how to fix things. Teresa had a good question, and I don't know that there's a good answer to it. What if the addict gets out and change doesn't happen? How much support do you give until you set those boundaries?
Immediate boundaries from day one is really good to have. But if they're pushing them, number one, why? Who's that? What? How? Like the who, what, where, when's, whys. That's the first thing I would ask for any problem. Is it because of who they're around? Is it where they're working? Is it family members? I mean, you have to be able to cut it off. I know, Chris, you've talked about this. Had you been dropped back in home with your friends in your hometown, what would you have done? How would you set those boundaries?
Oh man, no,
How would you do it with friends now? You're probably a better one to advise on how to set those boundaries now.
Yeah, I mean, when I got out, I did not even go anywhere near the people I used to hang out with. I went back to the people that I hung out with before I was in addiction. I didn't tell them I was out. Some of them didn't know I was out for 2 years. And I ran into them in Walmart. Oh man, why didn't you call me? Bruh, I don't know who's watching you. I am on parole. I do not need to be caught up. I mean, I'm past being addicted. Like that is over. Like you could throw a bag of dope in front of me right now and I'd tell you to go kick rocks. Wouldn't even be tempted. But I'm not that person anymore. Like I want to hang out with you when you're doing sketchy shit.
You're a tech. You're
With the cops
addicted to
always watching.
squirrels, right? It's squirrels and hunting and beef jerky and all
Yes.
that stuff. But
Yes, exactly.
I think it comes down to when you're helping somebody, help until it doesn't feel like you're comfortable helping anymore, right? Because just like somebody who's drowning next to you, if they're pulling you under, you're going to drown too. And so set the boundaries. Sometimes that firm kick in the butt is what they need. I had to do it with my sister. We have a rule that's been in place for over a decade. Do not call me when you're using. Call me anytime you're sober. But if you are under the influence, please don't call. I just can't handle it for my heart. It hurts. And so there would be times where I'd get a call on a Friday morning. Hey, I just wanted to tell you I love you. I'll talk to you Monday. And she respected the boundary. Now, I would ask her, please don't use. I did my best to try to dissuade what I knew was coming. But when that didn't work, I let it go, said, thank you for calling me sober. Thanked her again for respecting my boundary. Mm-hmm. I didn't, talk down to her for using. It wasn't going to stop it. But it worked. And I mean, that's the only way it worked for me. But I had to leave my mom for 10 years. I had to leave the whole town and say, Mom, I can't talk to you because you're not sober. Mm-hmm. And it was hard. Hi, Jacob. I see you.
Yeah, I see Jacob. Let's say hi to some people real quick that just dropped in. Nathan Hill is here somewhere. There he is. Angelique Stidham is in the house. Another freaking legend, man. I'm talking about legend. Wait for it. Dairy kind of stuff. Who else did I see? I do want to say this to Valerie. Texas has that program too at a unit or two. I don't know how many. And I think that is the coolest thing. I'd have given a lot to have a dog while I was in prison and be able to work with them. I think that's an awesome, awesome, awesome thing.
A lot of the prisoners never had to be responsible for something and care for something, right? A lot of people start using at a very young age. And so they're not even of adult age when they start in their process. Mm-hmm. And so giving them the responsibility, showing them they can accomplish things they put their mind to is really helpful. What was that? Helping is one thing, but what?
Oh, but co-signing their addiction.
Yeah, no. Yeah. The other thing I saw was like halfway houses can be a good idea for those who need the middle ground. And that's true if it's a well-run halfway house. There are some halfway houses that are worse than others, right? And you got to be careful.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Some people told me that they got better drugs in their halfway house than on the street. I heard this in my family. And to think that can happen, to think that it wouldn't with a bunch of drug addicts who are used to trying to figure out how to get around, it's hard. And so we need to make sure that we set people up for success where they can be successful. Some people need a halfway house with peers who are going through it, who can have that network of community support because their family doesn't get it. There's others who are like, my family is going to make me use again. They're the reason I used to begin with. My mom's the one who got me high the first time. And that's a true story for some people. And so it is.
And that's a huge thing I used to. Oh, I'm sorry. I got excited. Go ahead and finish.
No, go. Because it's true. My sister used with my mom. My mom never used with me. There's a huge variable there.
Yeah. I was going to say a lot of guys. Yeah, man. And a lot of guys I talked to while I was inside were scared to get out because the only address they had to go to was right back in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right back in the middle of all the stuff. And they were like, I know what's going to happen. People are going to be knocking on the door. They want to do this. They want to do that. My whole family smokes weed or smokes crack or does coke or whatever, it's a bad deal.
Yeah, it is. You got to cut Melissa off all the time. All the time.
Jake, I'm going to post it tomorrow. I posted it every couple months, the first few minutes of my first live stream. Jacob was there. Jacob was he was my very first, it was a group of people, but he was on my very, very first live stream. Amazing. And now look at him. This was back when he was just a little guy on social media. Now he's a baller.
I mean, I can't even handle the hair right now. It is. I wasn't ready. But I do have to say, too, it is very unique depending on where you are, right? We can't speak blanket statements because what's happening in Maine is not happening in Florida, is not happening in Washington.
True.
And so while there are some good programs, there are some spots that have none. There's nothing in that budget. And when you think about it, guys, these are tax-funded locations. So the poorer the location, the less funding that would be available to the local jail and prison system. And that really makes a difference for recidivism rates. And so I think if you're an employer, and this is my plea, my family members, I have one who reoffended and couldn't get outside of their addiction, and I have another who has been sober since sober in prison, went independent in prison, found their faith, just was kind of the person who kept the peace and got out and held themselves down on everybody else's dime. And do you know how hard that is for somebody who used to make good money, illegal or not, to have to step back and let somebody else provide?
Yeah.
And we're not giving them education or tools to circumvent those issues. And so then you have people who, I don't know, how do we fix the stigma? We talk about it. We talk about it. We love struggle with things. Sometimes they get caught up in terrible court situations. And sometimes they just need somebody to believe in them to stop doing that thing. They needed somebody to believe in them to not do that thing. So the cure is the same as the prevention.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to be here. So I appreciate what you're doing because, it's huge. Not enough people are doing it. It is huge. And then you're living the sober life after prison, showing proof that it can happen and still addressing the issues. That's why I came to talk on video about it.
You don't say on video with that look of disdain on your face.
This is why the same look happens on Saturdays. You just don't tell me not to make the face.
Well, we don't see it.
I know. That's why I love audio events. You just sold the audio event.
Oh, yeah, y'all talk about it. Man, everybody agreed with you on that one.
I mean, come on. 1 in 3 Americans got caught. Do you know how many times this face got sent home instead of in the back of the as a teenager? Oh, man, guys. I was in a neighborhood. Nobody cared what time I came home. I had opportunities to be sitting here saying, yes, I have a record. But luckily, not everybody's that lucky.
Yeah.
So you'll laugh. There was a friend I let stay with me. I didn't know during COVID, so he didn't go homeless, and he didn't even have the decency to shower. Yeah. Listen, that honestly comes back to some people aren't taught how to take care of themselves effectively.
Yeah.
Right? How many people in prison got in trouble for not showering, Chris? Ever hear of a write-up?
Oh, a lot. And part of orientation, when you roll up, you go through 2 weeks of intake where they're doing classification and this and that, and you go to orientation and they tell you, they literally, even in orientation, they do this. And I think it's great, although nobody pays attention, or the ones that aren't going to do it aren't going to do it, period. Teach you how the proper way to brush your teeth. You have to bathe. Keep yourself clean. Keep your bunk clean. This is vitally important or you will be sick because this is a place filled with germs because you've got 1,500 people here all living within close proximity of each other. Like they break it down and then people still don't want to bathe. You just did this like sleep across for me. He was just lazy, period. But he was on a walker, but he was just lazy, period. Because that sucker would get up for chow, I promise you. But he did not want to go shower. And I had to wake him up every day because you'd walk past his bunk and it would just be terrible. Ed, get your ass up, man. Let's go take a shower. You got to go. You got to tell him. It's terrible.
And guys, if they're not caring for themselves to that degree, and here we are, a prisoner with a walker, has some medical issues, I'm assuming, right? Just based on what I'm hearing, probably older. Lack of medical care. When you're a criminal, you don't get a caregiver to come in and help you shower.
Mm-mm.
To have medical treatment. I had one uncle that's still in. He just had a heart attack. His left side doesn't work, and they refused to take him in when he had complained about the arm pain. Think about this. You're at home having a heart attack. Nobody moves to help you, even though you're telling them you're having a heart attack. And this is somebody who has a balloon in his heart already, actually. Didn't get to go. Now, legally, there's a whole lot to be said there, but that's not unique. That's not at all unique. There's a bunch of prisoners in there, and they all need love. They all need compassion. They all want care. And so some people fake their tummy aches, and then other people end up paying serious prices for that.
Mm-hmm.
The stigma. How do we treat people this way? Ask them to come out and behave humane.
Mm-hmm.
What would have fixed it for you? Like from the inside, you know you're in trouble. You know you got to spend time. What are the 3 things you wish you could apply for every prisoner that was inside right now to have?
Air conditioner.
Guys, think about that. In all 50 states, there's not air conditioning in prison. It's not guaranteed. We're talking about not showering, but think about no AC.
Being in the AC, this is the hottest year it's been since 2011. And I was locked up in 2011, where we had 60 something consecutive days of triple digits. The lows at night were like 87, 88. So you can imagine, that doesn't happen till like 5 or 6 in the morning. So you're going to bed when it's still 98 degrees outside, trying to stay cool. And it was the most demoralizing thing I've ever been through, especially when a newspaper article came out that TDC had air conditioned hog barns, but not all the units were air conditioned. Yeah. Now, whether that's actually true or not.
Wait, somebody fact check that, but think about that, guys. You're in prison in this heat. Anybody in the US right now in this heat with no AC, no way to crack a window. They don't really let you open up windows in prison.
Well, we had windows and they were open. My unit did. Yep.
Oh, that's very lucky.
My unit
not all
did,
of them.
not all of them. Mm-mm.
There's no cooling it off, like opening up the doors, letting it air out real quick to drop it 10 degrees in 10 minutes. There's not a lot of that. And then beyond the AC, what else? What else would be really beneficial to have in prison? Because that's a big one, and I can see a lot of people are shocked. Oh, Angelique, I'm from Arizona. My aunt actually has a certificate from Joe Arpaio because she was on the chain gang, and they give you a certificate of completion. Yeah. They have Tent City out there where they cleared out the jails for the kennels to be held for those dogs and cats who are homeless, and then they put the humans outside in tents. My sister lost like 15, 20 pounds in just 1 month being outside in the jail there. Look, Gabe just hired me. He doesn't even realize it, but I want meat and cream cheese right now. That is my favorite pairing, by the way.
There might have been a double entendre to that one, knowing Gabe.
No, literally, if you go to my Facebook right now, I just had steak and cream cheese.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, so AC for prisoners.
AC.
What's the other 2?
Man, I don't know. Like you put me on the spot. This was not a question I was prepared for.
I like
those. AC is a big one. Yeah, I know. It makes you stop and go, head scratching. I don't know. TDC, like I said, does pretty good with their education program. Some guys, they make them get their GED. Like they don't have a choice. If you don't, you get in trouble. They'll G4 you, all kinds of crazy stuff. They do real good at giving you the opportunity to get your education if you want it. Man, I really don't know, Melissa. You got
I'll
me.
be honest. How many pillows do you get in prison? Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about that because in Texas you don't get one.
Guys, how many pillows do you sleep with? Can you just drop it in the comments? I want to know how many pillows do you need to be comfortable? Because I'm not saying, hey, let's make it cushy in like a hotel, but let's be serious. These are humans who may have arthritis, who may have fibromyalgia, who may have been attacked in prison and have issues from that. Violence is not lost on these prisoners. It happens daily inside. They don't even tell you how often prisons fight. They don't. Right? And sometimes you get stabbed. Sometimes you get bars or whatever. Sometimes there's 10 people stomping on you and you're in pain, and they don't do pain medicine in prison. Dental work, they pull it. That's it. And that's if you get in, right?
I don't know. I got cavities filled while I was in there.
That's location based, right? Because in Arizona, they pull them. They don't fix them. So you're already struggling, but then you come out and you don't have your teeth because they didn't fix them. They pulled them. Think about it, guys. What does that do for people trying to recover when they come in and their meth addiction's still here? Or they don't have the dental work to spend $10,000 on dentures because the prison pulled the bad stuff, not fixing it, setting them up for success later.
Right.
I'm not saying we can afford it, but I'm saying we can't afford not to. These are humans.
Yep.
Right?
Amber, there was no debriefing. Sometimes, like you can put in to take some classes. Sometimes TDC gives you what they make you go to a class called Changes. It's a 3-month class that kind of sets you up for getting out. But and I don't know how they decide who they make take that and who they don't. My buddy was locked up for 17 and a half years. He made his first parole and he got an FI1, which means you're out in 45 to 60 days. He was out 7 days later. He was out. He didn't even have time to process the fact that he was getting out after 17 and a half years, and he was out on the street without a kiss my ass or anything. Now, he had an amazing support system. His mom and stepdad they're amazing. I've met them. But still, and that's what I don't understand. And I don't know if Darren's in the comments, if he can maybe shed some light about how they decide. He may not even know. I don't know. How they decide who they're going to make stuff mandatory or not.
I was like, what?
Darren is a former warden with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And you're absolutely right. He says it all the time, and I believe it with all my heart. A lot of people want to bitch about, the guards or the warden or the major or whoever. It starts in the capital of that state. That's where it starts. It starts with the legislators, the people, the ones making the law.
And guys, it starts with us.
Melissa froze up. Oh, there you are.
It starts with us because we're the ones who vote yes to the new tax dollars for these wardens to have the pillows for the prisoners. We really have to look at these things and see where our money's going. The other part of it, and I'm going to say it, is education is huge to prevent crime. Recidivism rates go down when education goes up. And so if we can educate before the crimes happen, likelihood of preventing the crimes way higher, right? So education, imagine that. That's what fixes a lot of problems. Communication and education. Can we fix these things?
Yep.
I want to see
100%.
what Valerie said. Deaf prisoners are not allowed to communicate because the guards thought they were doing gang hand movements. Imagine being locked up and not allowed to talk ever. There was
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that some guards will say anything. But I would have a hard time believing that actually happened more just because, if they know you're deaf, if you got a hearing aid, or if you're talking funny, they should, I don't know. They might. I'm not saying it didn't, Valerie, but.
I also have to say, were the deaf prisoners part of the gang? Because I'm not.
Yeah, right. Were they? Why do we know?
Because
they might have been gang members.
I've done background checks. Let me just check the facts. I'm not saying that things like that don't happen, though, because it does. Like I said, my uncle just got denied a trip to the hospital he really needed that day. So for sure, we saw on Stephen Matthew Clark's The Awakening event where somebody did 30 years in solitary. 30 years alone. No contact beyond guards, by yourself in a room. That is not a punishment. That is terrorism. That is way worse, right?
Sometimes there's some extenuating circumstances to that. And I'm on the fence about it. Like if in Texas, if you're identified as a gang member and they confirm you as a gang member, you automatically go to SEG because you're a threat to staff and other inmates. And I get that. But Texas also has a cool program called GRAD, where it's called Gang Renouncement and Disassociation, where if you decide, I don't want to be in this gang anymore, I'm tired of it, you can go through the process and get out of SEG. Now, and I don't know this for sure, but that is the only reason why you stay in SEG for any long amount of time in Texas. That or you just keep acting a fool. And like I said, I'm kind of on the fence about it because I get why they do it coming from the former law enforcement side. But 30 years locked in a box is terrible. Yeah.
There's a movie that's supposed to come out about it. They're building a whole story behind it. So I don't think it's the end. We'll see. But I heard another story of 5 years just having these conversations recently. And I don't even know who told me this. But I'm having these conversations from a different perspective on criminal records, right? I've been the family member. I have been a victim of a crime. I have done criminal background checks to protect people from what crimes might be committed inside their organization. But now I'm talking to prisoners. And to be honest, I didn't even realize when I jumped into the Zoom the first time with Steven that he was in prison. I was just sitting here and we're like this. And I realized, hey, while I'm talking, there's this barbed wire picture kind of behind him with this brick wall. And I'm like, that's a unique background. What's going on with your background, bud? And that's when he dropped it on me. And I realized, wait, that's the guy Paul told me about. And this is that Zoom. And oh, hi, right? Unique. But how cool, because now I understand the human behind the crime. It's not just a criminal. It's just not a Department of Corrections number. It's just not some guy who's sitting in the whatever. It's a human who's got a PhD program started and who's advocating for other prisoners and who's sharing this message. Super loving, super caring, super faithful. These are the kind of things that can happen inside prison with the right tools too.
For sure.
So we talked about only one pillow. We talked about no AC. Can we talk about the fact that fresh fruit is also a thing that my friend Steven is dreaming about?
We got fresh fruit twice a year. No, I take that back. Whoa. Hang on. Time out.
Uh-oh.
Flag on the play.
His play,
We
not
got
mine.
fresh fruit twice a year. At Thanksgiving and Christmas, we got an apple and an orange each. But like during the summer, we had all kinds of fresh fruits and vegetables. We'd have fresh watermelon, cantaloupe, whatever was growing, peaches sometimes, pears. We had all kinds of fresh fruit and vegetables. It was only in the summer, whenever it was being grown, because we'd eat some of it fresh and send some of it to the cannery. Like watermelons, we ate fresh because you don't can watermelon, but yeah. But that's Texas. That was my unit too. Like we had a garden there, a big garden. I understand not every unit's the same.
There's that other piece, right? So there are prisons and programs out there where they're self-sustained or they're growing fresh stuff in the garden to teach people how to do something with their hands beyond what they've done. Look at the value of the prisoners eating better foods, because I'll be honest, I'm not hearing fresh fruit from any of the prisoners that I've talked to.
It doesn't happen all the time.
The things that I heard the most about were like the cheese sauce, right? Like the little packets of cheese you can buy, the jalapeno cheddar sauce. That was gold in prison. Instant coffee, those little things. Guys, imagine a life though where you're begging for the cheese sauce and then the prison's like, yeah, but only 10 at a time. You're not allowed to buy more than that. You just think about these things and then you send a human out after 15, 20 years in prison, like my uncle. He was on a bus. That's how they got him home from his prison that was in a different state than where he was releasing to. He got on a bus. Every time it stopped, he could get off just like everybody else and go to take a break, grab some food. But imagine, like Back to the Future style, he goes into a fast food restaurant and now there's movement on the menu. It changes every 10 seconds and he doesn't know what's on this menu and now it's moving and he doesn't read that fast because he's a prisoner who never had tech. And so he didn't eat for 2 days. He got so much anxiety, he just got back on the bus. That's fast food while you're traveling, while you're hungry. Imagine life coming at you fast, just like that from every aspect. And then you're responsible for outcomes. Pay your fines. Make sure you're sober. Make sure you have somewhere to live. And you got 7 days notice in some cases that you were being released. Who could restart their life in 7 days with no warning? Anybody in the comments want to take this task on? I don't.
Right. And Angelique, I promise you, it was not fancy where I was at. We were just on an agricultural prison. We grew all kinds of stuff.
Vanessa, you were in Tallahassee. Tell me, did you get fruit? I want to know. Did Florida send down oranges? I mean, guys, I only want to bring this food stuff up because I'm a big fan of food. We talked about that. But also, if food is such an eye-opening experience when you come out. If you're so limited to even fruit from the inside, imagine what else they don't have. And then they come out and everything hits them at once. What if you walked into your business and every employee you have to deal with came at you at the same time, boss or otherwise, and it all happened at the same time and you have to tackle it, and you've been in a quiet little box, nobody's messed with you except a few times a day? How do we expect them to rise to this challenge when we haven't prepared them?
Yep,
it's so hard. Even coming home to the home party, right? I'm a teenager. I don't know better. My uncle gets out of prison. We're all excited. I run up and hug him behind. Chris, I run up and hug a man who spent almost 2 decades in prison. I run up and grab him from behind and hug him. Out of nowhere. No warning.
Oh, yeah. I bet he had to come apart, didn't he?
He froze.
Yeah.
And I saw fear in his face. And it wasn't what I expected. But he looked at me and said, please don't ever come up behind me again. And I realized I was in danger. But it's because anybody who came up behind him for the last 15, 20 years wasn't really friendly all the time.
Right.
Another thing, how do you apply that to real life? And your boss comes up, taps you on the back real fast. Hey, bud, what you doing?
Yeah. I tell the story a lot. On the way home, we stopped at the gas station. I knew what I wanted to get at Whataburger because I've been seeing the commercials for the Monterey Pepper Jack burger for years. And I was like, I want that. So that's what I got. We stopped at a gas station to get a can of snuff, and I was going to get a drink. And I walk in, I'm looking, and there are 10 times the different amounts of sodas to choose from that there was when I went in 8 years ago. Like there's now 10 different flavors of Mountain Dew, and there was like Mountain Dew and Code Red when I went in. The overwhelm of trying to pick a soda out of all these sodas was too much. I turned around and walked out without a drink. Or maybe I just got a bottle of water or something. Like it was nuts.
My uncle went to prison when pagers were the way he would communicate with his people.
I tell this story too.
Right?
No, I know.
Communicating with code like 411 or 911, text this number back, or 143.
Yeah.
Now, what's 404 mean? I don't know what 404 means. That wasn't on the pager. That means error not found, right? What is that?
Right.
Small things.
Yeah.
Right?
Whenever I went in, the big phone that everybody had was the Motorola Razr.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't.
My uncle was still.
It was the Razr. Like that was the phone to have if you were cool. When I got out, we were on iPhone 7. Think how much technology changed just in those 8 years. Like just to put that into perspective, we've now got a high-speed internet device in our hands that could launch a nuclear missile.
Imagine the difference of using your fingerprint to unlock a phone instead of like check into a new facility. No, right. Anybody there, but just the mind-blown nature of going from print to digital. Just the little transitions that we take for granted.
Yeah, like what's
imagine going from Mario to Sonic and then Sonic to Call of Duty in an instant.
Yeah. It's about what it was.
Wow.
For sure.
Guys, wow. I know Jacob
Not
left.
do well. I know Jacob. I know he doesn't know what he missed.
Oh, I know.
He's probably heard the story before, though. Melissa, we are overtime. Not that I mind. I know. Not that I'm surprised. And you must be popular because we still have a full crowd. Like normally it drops off a little bit after 45 minutes. We're still holding really
when
strong.
You don't show up and do a lot of things all the time, they like it. So maybe an audio event might just knock it out of the park for you.
Oh my God.
Go back to the show and stop complaining.
All right, Paul, we did have ice cream on commissary. We had pints of Bluebell. And if you don't know what Bluebell is, you were definitely missing out. It's the best ice cream on the face of the earth. And we also had like popsicle type things like cookie cones and fudge bombs and things like that. So we did have ice cream. How much
they were?
A pint was $1.75. If I remember right, maybe $2.75, probably $2.75.
So how many hours of work did it take to earn that if you were earning it?
Texas doesn't get paid money. Your family has to put money on your books.
Man.
Yeah, we don't get paid.
Tough.
They pay us in good time.
Hey, that's priceless. Getting that time back is priceless. So, I mean, at least
Yep.
you get to earn that because, like Paul said, Maine doesn't give good time.
Yep.
There are states out there, guys, that do not have parole that will give you offset for good behavior. Think about that. Hard time is hard time. It's just across the board. It doesn't matter what you've done.
Yep.
If you tell me I'm not getting out of prison for 40 years, no matter what I do, why should I be good?
Right.
So
My
just
former
think-
co-host on this show, he and I started it together, Nathan Winsen Reed. He's from California. And he's on parole indefinitely until they decide he's done. Like there's no end in sight. They could decide tomorrow. They could hold him off for another 10 years. It's crazy.
You guys, could you live with a? We'll let you leave work at some point. Just keep going until we say it's good.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like that's justice at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Especially if he's doing everything he's supposed to.
Yeah.
It's just
Jackie said it. Great conversation. There's still so much.
Great conversation. I know it. I'm connected to Stephen Matthew Carter. I'm following him.
You guys have to talk.
I did not realize he was locked up, though, I don't guess.
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
I love having him in my audio events and then dropping it because he's so articulate and so eloquent and so peaceful and kind. And then all of a sudden they're like, he did what? But that's the point, right? When you can evolve yourself that far away from where you were when you got incarcerated, you should have the ability to prove it to the world that it's time. And so let's make it happen. Go follow him. If nothing else, I would love you to end the stigma and help share his message. A prisoner looking to fix it from the inside out. He just did an interview with a DA of all things.
Wow.
And she's supportive of his efforts. So, I mean, come on, guys, we got to work together to fix the problem. And if we keep them separate, it's never going to work. We can't have prisoners against the rest because they got to come out to us. And if we're against them, they're going to go right back in. Yep. It is our problem to fix.
Yep. Melissa, thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. This was fun. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Darren, if you're still in the comments, man, I appreciate you always bringing the perspective from the admin side of things. Because I know it's, especially as a former inmate and people tend to get worked up about stuff. And, sometimes it's good to have a perspective of why things are the way they are. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but at least we can see the other side of it. You know what I mean? So Darren's always really good about dropping that kind of stuff in there.
I love it.
Yep. All right, y'all. Next week, who do I have? Tiffany Raymond. She works for a state. We're not going to say which one because she can't. For the probation and parole department, all you got to do is look on her profile, but we just can't talk about it. Anyway. They actually have a reentry program where she sits down one-on-one with people, helps them get ready to get out, or to get off probation, basic life skills, helps them find a job. Like the state has this. Yeah, I know. I think it's freaking amazing.
It's too bad we can't say who it is.
I know. DeSantis is the governor. And that's just all I'll say about that. But anyway, she's going to be a guest. I had a chat with her a couple weeks ago. Super cool, super laid back, super passionate about helping people. Does not give a flip about what you did. She just wants to see you succeed in getting out of prison. So it's going to be a good one, y'all. Melissa, thank you again. Maybe one of these days I'll start doing audios. Maybe. We'll see.
Just come by mine. You don't have to host.
I know. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for hanging out for so long. We'll see y'all next week.
Take care.